I am the supporting female character in an early matchmaking novel. In the 5th year of unrequited love for the second male lead, I suddenly gained self-awareness. That day, Shuchochi hurriedly finished the soup I had personally made and turned to leave. "Can you please not go?" I asked for the last time. He only paused for a moment. In the next instant, he strode out without stopping. On the other side of the imperial city, his beloved heroine, who had quarreled with her husband, the regent, was anxiously waiting for his comfort. Although Shuchochi is a scholar, he can scale walls and leap over eaves. Capable of anything, he can climb over the courtyard wall every day to come and drink my soup. He subtly probes, asking about the female lead's youthful past. He can also enter the prince's mansion, listening to his beloved's worries all night, offering advice and going through fire and water for her. But I, Eugenia, have already waited until I became an old maid. He won't marry me anymore. I no longer hold on to any illusions. The red bridal veil I embroidered myself lay draped over my knees as I stared blankly out the window. Autumn was approaching, and that person's figure gradually faded into the distance. This was the last time we saw each other in the 5 years since we first met. We met again 4 years later, with a son and a daughter. I returned to Chang'an with my husband, Xiaxianji, who had been promoted. The imperial capital has now undergone a great transformation. 4 years ago, the capital was still under the control of the Prince Regent. Now that the young emperor has grown up, his trusted confidants, whom he personally promoted, have taken root throughout the court. Among them, Chancellor Shuchochi leads the way, remaining loyal to the young emperor and subtly forming an opposing stance against the Prince Regent. Hearing that name again, I was just stunned for a moment. The newly hired maid, Tsueyin, whispered softly, "I heard the Prime Minister is already 27 and still hasn't married." Upon hearing this, I sincerely sighed. He is a devoted person. Those embarrassing memories of unrequited love had long since faded away amidst the ordinary happiness of the past. My husband comes from a distinguished family, refined, elegant, and handsome in appearance, a true gentleman. He loves and respects me, showing thoughtful care in every detail. Our 2 children are as lovely as jade and snow, and they have now reached the age to begin their education. When Shuchochi is mentioned again, I can also praise his deep affection without any distracting thoughts. After all, everything he did for the consort Song Miao was beyond what an ordinary person could endure. As luck would have it, as soon as we entered the city gate and passed by the tavern I used to frequent, I instinctively lifted the curtain and glanced outside, and there, I met a familiar face. I froze for a moment. It's Shuchochi. Her attire seems no different from before. For a moment, it made me feel dazed. I quickly snapped back to reality. Then, with a slight smile, she nodded to him in greeting. To an old acquaintance, she was already exceedingly polite. Without looking to see his reaction, I turned my head and took the bay leaf Xiaxianji offered. "Just bear with it a little longer. We're almost there," he said, his eyes filled with concern. I put down the curtain, my eyes crinkling with laughter. All these years, he has remembered clearly that I get uncomfortable riding in a carriage. Though usually gentle and refined, he often rides with me on short trips without feeling the slightest loss of dignity. Suddenly, I remembered 4 years ago, when I traveled south by carriage and then by boat to marry him, and I was sick the entire way. I barely managed to rinse my mouth and hold it in, but as soon as he lifted the veil, the smell of the wedding wine hit me. I couldn't hold back and ended up vomiting all over him again. Instinctively, I looked at his face first. At that moment, just like every time after, he wore a concerned expression, looking extremely anxious. "It's my fault for not considering your long journey. I should have postponed the wedding date a bit." My nervousness instantly vanished, and I found it somewhat amusing. This is an auspicious day that was carefully chosen. How could it be changed so easily? The Xie family has been distinguished for generations, so how did they raise such an unreliable young man? At that time, Xie Xianji had just completed the 3-year mourning period for his mother and had achieved nothing. I thought he was a frivolous young nobleman. Later, I came to know that he was actually a man of great learning, renowned for his talent in the Jiangnan region. His exceptionally handsome appearance even made his poems highly sought after and circulated among the various pleasure quarters along the Huayang River. It was only due to the successive deaths of his parents that he had delayed entering official service. Such a gentleman is only at a loss when facing his wife. A heart that had been tormented suddenly calmed down. Who wouldn't live well after marrying such a person? Xie Xianji's recent promotion was to the censorate, where he became the Grand Censor. We all know in our hearts that this entry into Chang'an is the perfect time for the emperor to place his trusted ministers in key positions. Regent Ning Chuan has been assisting in governance for many years, and now the emperor has finally decided to reclaim his authority. But power isn't inscribed with anyone's name. How can it simply be taken back by reaching out a hand? I was somewhat worried. On the first day of Xie Xianji's court attendance, I woke up early, muttering to myself as I helped him straighten his clothes. I wish I could tell him all the useful insights I had from my time in Chang'an. The regent is aloof and proud. He rarely argues with others in court, but he will surely settle scores afterward. Most of the military officials in the court side with the regent. They won't engage in verbal disputes, but if they lose an argument, they might resort to physical confrontation in court. You should keep your distance from them. As for those few marquises, they are like mascots in the court. They're just old and tend to be gossipy and sharp-tongued. Fortunately, you come from a good background, so they probably won't give you a hard time. Chattering away, it was only after a long while that I suddenly stopped. These words were told to me by Xu Choqi many years ago. I wonder if the officials attending court today are still the same people. My husband's eyes are smiling as he looks down at me. I composed my startled expression and added, Prime Minister Xu Choqi is the political rival of the Regent King. Years ago, when the Regent King first discovered that Xu Choqi and the princess consort Song Miao were not actually cousins but former fiancés, he flew into a rage, accusing them of feigning one thing while doing another. Within a few days, he broke his vow and brought 2 beautiful concubines into the mansion. Xu Choqi went to argue, but was instead insulted by the Regent King for his lowly origins and lack of manners. Throughout his life, he had always been most sensitive about others mentioning his beggar background. That alone was something he could endure, as he had always been patient. But Ning Chuan also insulted the character of the one he held dear. Even if Song Miao and Ning Chuan eventually reconciled, the cracks of betrayal still remained. From time to time, they would resurface, striking Song Miao with a heavy blow. How could Xu Choqi bear to see this? The last thing he said to me on the day we last met was, Ning Chuan cannot give her happiness. The implication is that only he can provide it. All the hidden confrontations now had a reason. Now, 4 years later, he has finally achieved his wish and can stand on equal footing with Ning Chuan. I sighed. I'm no longer very interested in their outcome. I only hope all these struggles stay far away from my husband. If not necessary, do not get involved in the factional disputes between these two. Although I knew full well that His Majesty would not allow him to remain aloof, I still gave a pale reminder. Xie Xianji affectionately nuzzled my cheek. Don't just stay cooped up at home, I can't keep you company. So you should go out more to meet up with old friends and visit your mother-in-law. I'll come pick you up after I finish work. I didn't really have any old friends, but I nodded anyway. After seeing him off, I finished washing up, took our 2 children Qingyuan and Yuming, and prepared to make a trip back to my parents' home. It had been many years since we last saw each other, and the journey was long, although in the past, because of my obsession with Xu Choqi, my mother and brother were frustrated with my lack of progress and were full of resentment when they sent me off to be married. But how can blood ties be so easily severed? The fashionable items from the capital were sent to Jiangnan every year, and it is said that they accounted for almost half of my brother's salary. I smiled and pulled my restless child into my arms. After pouring out our hearts, my brother volunteered to go out and buy me the Osmanthus sugar cakes I loved most as a child. He was a minor official of the 7th rank, with plenty of free time. Now that we had cleared up our misunderstandings, after catching up with my mother, the exhaustion from days of travel finally caught up with me, so I returned to the courtyard where I used to live for a short rest. My 2 children were excitedly taken by my mother to play in the garden, while I walked alone along the familiar path and pushed open the door. The pear tree in the courtyard remains lush and leafy. Everything seems just as it was before, as if I were still that rigid and uninteresting girl, moving back and forth in this unchanging small courtyard. Even when admiring someone, I only thought about making sure he ate well. Day after day, I looked expectantly toward the courtyard wall, hoping that person would come again. Later, he did indeed come often, but it was only because of some past connection I had with the one he loved, and under the pretense of drinking soup, he would subtly inquire about everything concerning her. Unconsciously, I fell back into the memories of the past, feeling a chill come over me. There was a sudden crisp sound from the window. I turned around abruptly. I saw a person sitting sideways on the courtyard wall, dressed in moon-white robes, with a tall and slender figure like jade, and a face as calm as still water. I almost let out a scream. Fortunately, I covered my mouth in time. Shu Qiu, Lord Shu. A faint smile bloomed on his pale face, his eyes and brows exuding a bewitching charm. He had matured a bit more, but the hair at his temples had turned white, so young. Yet already graying. You still recognize me. His voice was hoarse as he jumped down. I took a step back and frowned. If you have business, sir, you should use the main entrance. He paused for a moment and explained in a low voice. Sorry, I forgot to avoid suspicion for a moment. With that said, I didn't want to linger any longer and turned to leave. Shu Qiuqi called out to stop me. Jinhe, after all these years apart, are you really not going to say a single word to me? He was very good at playing the victim. Almost simultaneously, I realized that he admired Song Miao. Now that we have openly clashed with the regent, this matter is even more widely known. He had always kept his distance from me before, and we had no enmity between us. To leave just like that would be too petty, so I sat back down. He said frankly, I haven't been here for years, so there are no tea sets to offer you. He looked at me with a hazy, misty gaze for a long time before softly saying, You've changed a bit from how you used to be. The year I got married, I was 20 years old. Now I'm 24 and have given birth to a child, so it's only natural that I've changed. I nodded. It has changed a bit. Silence returned all around. He looked up at the pear tree and murmured, Last spring, it fell ill. I put in a lot of effort to cure it, but thankfully, everything is fine this year. I didn't quite catch what he said and asked, What? He changed the subject. I couldn't come to see you off the year you got married. As he spoke, he pulled a white jade hairpin from his sleeve. It was translucent and exquisitely polished. This was the gift I originally intended to give you. The man offered me a hairpin, but I felt it was somewhat inappropriate and politely declined, saying, It's been so long, there's no need to stand on ceremony. His hand froze mid-air, gradually beginning to tremble. After a long silence, he quietly withdrew his hand and bid me farewell. I retraced my steps and arrived at his home, just a wall away. I sat quietly for a long time, feeling no sleepiness. It wasn't until Xie Xianji came to pick me up and take me home that I still felt a bit dazed. He held me in his arms and asked softly, Did you meet that person? I responded with a muffled sound. I have never kept anything from him about the past. It's not that I can't let go. I just feel like I was out of my mind back then. And it's a bit pitiful, he said gently. A young girl's infatuation is only natural. How could it be your fault? Ah, you are not at fault. It's not wrong to feel sorry for someone, and it's not wrong to be good to someone because of a life-saving favor. You are a very good person. Yes, why do I like Shu Qiuqi? In the distant past, there has always been an answer. At the age of 15, I lived with my mother and brother, guarding the vast family fortune left by my father while also fending off the Jiangnan relatives who came under the pretense of looking after us but were actually eyeing the inheritance. Yet, no matter how careful we were, we couldn't prevent the inevitable. One day, while my mother was out lighting incense lamps for my late father, someone suddenly came to tell me that her carriage had lost control and plunged off a cliff. She was rescued but was on the brink of death, waiting only to see me one last time. Panic-stricken and without a second thought, I didn't wait for my brother, who was still at the academy. I lifted the hem of my skirt and rushed out. Just outside the city gate, a sack was thrown over my head. Those wolves from the clan had lured me out, found a filthy and foul man for me. intending to defile me so they could use it as an excuse to accuse my mother of tarnishing the family's reputation and being unfit to manage the household. My brother had not yet come of age, nor had he entered official service, making it the perfect time for them to seize the family property. On that bleak and stormy night, it was Shuchochi, who was wandering and begging for a living, who saved me, amidst the lightning and thunder. I saw his blood-stained profile as he put down the stone in his hand, pale, beautiful, with an air of eerie charm, starkly contrasting with his tattered and dirty clothes. Yet in my eyes, he appeared as if a god had descended to the mortal world. When he spoke again, he asked me for 2 steamed buns. I want the ones made with white flour. Only then did I see that there were 2 of them. Another head, topped with a lotus leaf and a handkerchief covering the face, peeked out from behind him. Their clothes were neat, without a single patch. Both of their stomachs began to rumble. I snapped back to reality and hurriedly said, "I'll take you home." They looked at me with wary eyes. I glanced down at my silk clothing and suddenly understood. At that time, the Jiangnan region was suffering from floods, and many people had abandoned their homes to head north, becoming refugees. Many noble families took advantage of this situation to buy slaves at low prices. They are afraid that I might be that kind of person. I pondered for a long while. Suddenly, I remembered, the scholar's family next door to my home passed the imperial exams and was assigned to a post elsewhere, so that house is currently empty. I still have some savings of my own. Since you saved my life, I will buy that house and give it to you. My father was once a merchant, and although he later donated most of the family fortune, our household still never lacked for money. Their eyes lit up. But then, my savior spoke solemnly again, "We just need a place to stay, there's no need to waste money." I wanted to say, "How could it be a waste? You saved my life." The girl's stomach growled again. He interrupted, "When are you going back?" I had no choice but to stagger to my feet and lead the 2 of them toward the city. On the way, I asked, "What is your relationship? Why are you walking outside so late at night?" He was silent for a moment, then said, "We are siblings. When disaster struck in Jiangnan, we followed the refugees all the way here and happened to arrive at the outskirts of the capital." I nodded. From beginning to end, the girl did not say a word, only clinging to his side with deep dependence. "My name is Shuchochi," he said. "Thank you, I will repay the money." I quickly wanted to say it wasn't necessary, but he said in a deep tone, "I'm not the kind of person who holds a favor over someone's head." Later, as we spent more time together, I finally saw through his lie. Shuchochi was once a beggar, and because of his extraordinary beauty, he was often ostracized and coveted by others. Song Miao's parents had modest property in Jiangnan. Feeling sorry for his unfortunate fate and seeing his intelligence, they took him in as a child groom, providing him with an education. Unfortunately, a natural disaster struck, claiming the lives of Song Miao's parents, Shuchochi, who was studying at a school on higher ground, and Song Miao, who had gone to pick him up from school, managed to escape the catastrophe. With their family assets plundered and depleted, he had no choice but to take Song Miao and head north to seek a livelihood. Along the way, he endured great shame and engaged in many undignified acts. He had fought and competed with wild dogs for food, all just so Song Miao could have enough to eat and wear warm clothes. But in front of Song Miao, he still had to act like a gentleman. I don't want her to think we are beggars. At that time, I had already recognized that Song Miao was my childhood neighbor. My delusions about him ended there. They were engaged, not siblings. It's just that Song Miao was unwilling to admit it. Shuchochi was true to his word. After moving in, he quickly found work outside. The money he earned was divided into 2 parts, one for buying Song Miao's outfits, and the other was placed daily outside my window, just a wall away. At that time, he didn't know martial arts yet and often climbed the wall, getting covered in dust. Song Miao said gently, "My brother wants to be self-reliant and refuses to accept handouts." I remained silent, watching his back, which couldn't straighten from carrying sandbags, and whispered, "Let's make a deal." He looked up and glanced over. "My brother has no talent for studying, and our relatives are watching like tigers. I'm afraid in a few years, they will try to take everything by force. If you are willing, I will support you in your studies and education, and the Yi family will take care of Miss Song's daily needs, but you must promise that if you achieve success in the imperial examinations, you will support the Yi family for life." After careful consideration, he clenched his weathered hands several times before finally nodding solemnly in agreement. From then on, I discussed the matter with my mother and brother, and our family's kitchen began delivering meals to Song Miao every day. My mother, grateful that they had saved my life, took meticulous care of both of them. Not only did she take charge of all their daily needs, but she also gave Song Miao gold and silver jewelry during festivals. Song Qiuqi also lived up to expectations, passing the imperial examination to become a scholar in his second year of school. At that time, he was 19 years old. I had originally thought that everything would continue on in this uneventful manner. That fleeting glance on that rainy night was all taken as a kindness. My mother was also busy arranging a match for me. Even though I was still heartbroken, I did not stop her. Unexpectedly, after Song Miao went out, she had a brief but memorable encounter with Prince Regent Ning Chuan. The two encountered assassins outside the city, and Song Miao fled with him in confusion for several days. When they returned, Shu Qiuqi looked haggard from not being able to find Song Miao. Meanwhile, Song Miao, with the budding feelings of a young girl, wore a smile on her face. He stood there in a daze, then strode over, looking her up and down again and again, his eyes gradually welling up with tears. "Where have you been? I searched everywhere for you with the servants from the Yi residence, but couldn't find you." Song Miao avoided eye contact. A long time later, I stood at the doorstep. Having come at my mother's request to check if she had returned today, I only heard her whisper softly, "Shu Qiuqi, I no longer hold any resentment toward you. From now on, let us be like siblings." The person with their back to me had shoulders that just slumped like that. After a long while, his voice trembled as he asked, "Why?" She turned her face away, answering as if she hadn't heard the question, "That person holds a high position and great power. I want a powerful family to rely on." A long time later, the withered yellow leaves of the pear tree in the neighboring courtyard were blown by the wind, landing right in Song Miao's hair. Shu Qiuqi reached out and took it off. He said firmly, "All right." From then on, he rose early and retired late, studying diligently day and night, sparing no effort to pursue an official career through education and to learn martial arts under a master, until later, he assumed the position of Vice Minister of the Court of Judicial Review. With his support, Song Miao also got her wish to marry the regent. He admired Song Miao so deeply, and I, after witnessing the scene where they drew a clear boundary, thought belatedly, perhaps he must eventually settle down. Could that person not be me? Shu Qiuqi gave me hope. Before Song Miao got married, I never crossed the line. It wasn't until after she was married that I looked at Shu Qiuqi's gaunt cheeks from studying and practicing martial arts, and for the first time, I mustered the courage to stand by the wall and say to the person next door, "I made turtle soup with my own hands today. Would you like to try it?" That year, my mother, who initially wanted me to stay a few more years, gradually began to worry. I was 18 years old. Most girls my age had already married and had children. Even Song Miao, who had been delaying due to status differences, had also gotten married. My mother finally came to her senses and pressed me, asking if I had taken a liking to Shu Qiuqi. I kept dodging the question, but in the end, I told her the truth. Unexpectedly, she burst into tears. "My dear girl, he carries too much on his shoulders. You won't see any results. I am stubborn and passionate, and I simply refused to believe it." When Shu Qiuqi indeed climbed over the wall and sat down to drink my soup, my heart bloomed with joy, even though his first words were, "I heard that you and Miao Miao met in your childhood. In which year and month was that?" I still laughed until tears welled up in my eyes. In these times, most daughters marry someone of equal social standing, and many never get to be with the one they truly love. I thought I would be different from them. But I never imagined that Shu Qiuqi would be devoted to Song Miao for a lifetime. When my family was secretly harassed by my uncles, he was hundreds of miles away, searching for a magical flower that the pregnant Song Miao had dreamed of. While I was bedridden for over 10 days with a chill after being drenched by a sudden rainstorm while out checking on the shops, The lights in his courtyard never went out, as he stayed up all night comforting Song Miao, who had suffered a miscarriage after running away from home following a quarrel with Ning Chuan. After knowing each other for many years, he gradually rose to a high position of power and was no longer the young man who had to earn a living through hard labor. The money he owed my family had long been repaid, yet he never gave me a single gift. I thought he didn't understand, yet I clearly witnessed with my own eyes that he went to the jewelry shop and personally selected many precious jewels for Song Miao. He even thoughtfully prepared a longevity lock for the child. I felt as if I was standing in a thick fog, growing increasingly dispirited and unable to find a way out. I dare not ask if he intends to marry me. If not, why does he come every day? After all, being neighbors with Song Miao for just 2 short years has already worn me down with gossip. There's nothing new left anymore. The only time he said he would marry me was because his true relationship with Song Miao in Ningchuan had been exposed. As pear blossoms fell, he softly asked, "Do you wish to marry me?" That year, I was about to turn 20, but my birthday had not yet arrived. Once my birthday passed, I would have to start paying the fine for late marriage. Instinctively, I opened my mouth to agree, but for some reason, my throat felt tight. A voice asked me, "Yi Jinhe, are you willing to spend your life with a husband who holds another woman in his heart?" I hesitated. He turned his head away, not daring to look at me, and hurried off. I realized belatedly that he wanted to use this to dispel Ning Chuan's suspicions. Otherwise, as a commoner, I would have long been unworthy of his family's status, but I was willing to give myself one last chance. In the 6 months before my birthday, every time Song Miao had something urgent and needed to call him away, I would softly ask, "Can you not go?" Too many times, he never missed a single one. The last time we sat facing each other, I held the red bridal veil I had embroidered myself on my lap. Mother said she had found a good young man for me in Jiangnan, and for some reason, he specifically asked for me, just waiting for me to agree. This time, I didn't immediately refuse, only saying I needed to think about it. A few days ago, in the small courtyard in the afternoon, I fell into a troubled nap and had a dream. In the dream, all our lives were written in a storybook. I married Shu Chochi as I wished. He held a high position, and I enjoyed boundless glory, but for a lifetime, he always stayed by Song Miao's side. No matter the time or place, a single call from Song Miao could make him leave, and because they had once saved my life, I always remained calm and uncomplaining, quietly accepting it all, giving birth, falling ill, and raising the child alone. Even in death, I was treated like an outsider. This suffocating feeling, like drowning, jolted me awake from my dream. My heart is filled with desolation and emptiness. Looking at the person before me, I asked, "Why haven't you moved away? Having attained a high official position, you should move to Pinkang Ward, which is closer to the imperial city." He spoke vaguely. "This place is where I began." I nodded, quite in agreement. There are many memories of him and Song Miao here. It's only human to be reluctant to part with them, until he tilted his head in confusion and said, "I wonder who informed the regent about my past with Miao Miao." In an instant, my entire body turned cold. This chill would involuntarily rise within me every time I thought of him afterward. In his eyes, I was such a person. Without waiting for my response, he continued on his own. "Ning Chuan is not the right man for her. Someone called for him from outside, saying the princess consort was feeling wronged and refused to take the medicine meant to restore her health. For the last time, I numbly pleaded, 'Can you please not go?' He merely paused, as always, and then walked away. That night, I went to my mother, resting my head on her lap, and whispered softly, 'Tomorrow is your daughter's birthday. Mother, why would that man want to marry an old maid?' A tear fell into my mother's palm, and she silently wiped away the remaining tears from the corner of my eye. Mother did not say, she only worried that I would go back on my word. She won't harm me, only I know that I have truly given up, and all my unwillingness has vanished overnight. On the 3rd day, I boarded a boat heading south of the Yangtze River. In the south, I met Xie Xianji and finally understood why he was willing to marry an old maid. First, there is a past connection. You've forgotten. You used to live on East Street. I was frail and sickly back then. And you were the only one willing to take me out to play. Every day, you'd secretly wait by the side gate, often bringing me snacks that my family wouldn't let me eat. Second, there is shared hardship. They say I bring misfortune to my parents, and at my age, all I have is a reputation for beauty and talent, which probably can't uphold the family's honor. Besides, a woman at 20 is at the perfect age. I'm actually glad I still have a bit of good luck left. These words are spoken with great humility. Yet he is truly a very good person, gentle and courteous, yet not at all distant. Every day, he draws my eyebrows and styles my hair, a routine that has remained unchanged for 4 years. He does not take concubines or keep maids. Even those who closely attend to him are young male servants. Gradually, all regrets and resentments began to fade away. We fell in love with each other and had a child. All the past events were gradually sealed away. After calming down in Xiaxianji's embrace, I felt a bit embarrassed. I'm already a mother, he said with a stern face. So what if you're a mother? I, as a father, secretly ate candied hawthorn last night. I finally broke into a smile. Letting him remove my hairpins and ornaments as we embraced and drifted into dreamland, while the court was in turmoil, our home remained peaceful and harmonious. Being so close to my mother and brother, the unease I felt upon arrival gradually faded, and I began to reintegrate into life in Chang'an. At one banquet, I also encountered Song Miao, who was surrounded by a crowd of people. She was no longer the innocent and lively girl she once was. Now, she exuded an air of authority. When she saw me, she didn't approach to speak. Instead, her expression turned cold, and she gave me a distant nod. Whispers could be heard from all around. The Princess of Ning is quite cunning. Without any children of her own, she still managed to keep the prince from taking a concubine all these years. I heard the censor's wife and the Princess of Ning have a past connection. But why do the two of them seem so unfamiliar? Are you foolish? The censor is the emperor's. I calmly returned the greeting, pretending as if those gossiping behind my back didn't exist. After all, Xiaxianji is a key minister in the emperor's inner circle, and over the years, I have managed the finest embroidery house in Jiangnan. No one would be foolish enough to court my disfavor. Moreover, the families of officials who have already aligned themselves with the young emperor have subtly shown me goodwill. I neither distance myself from them nor actively seek their closeness. The position of censor-in-chief, though seemingly trusted and valued by the emperor, is in reality as precarious as walking on thin ice. The slightest misstep could turn one into a pawn in the power struggles. My husband always thinks of me, so I shouldn't hold him back. Originally, everything was safe and sound. Although the court is full of unpredictable changes, Xiaxianji comes from a prominent family, traveled abroad for studies in his youth, and has broad knowledge. The emperor particularly appreciates him. He even hinted that he intends to transfer him to the Ministry of Works later. After returning home, he told me with a smile, "It couldn't be better. This way, there will be fewer pointless conflicts. I truly wish I could stay home with you every day." I chided him for not focusing on his duties, but I couldn't help smiling. He stood tall and graceful under the pear tree in my courtyard, looking back at me and saying, "Ah, this is where you grew up." His eyes were full of affection, and perhaps a touch of regret. It's a pity that in those years, we were not together. He often firmly believed that if I had been 2 years older back then, or if we had not been separated all these years, I would not have fallen for someone else in the meantime. He's right. Meeting his tender gaze, I felt bewitched and tilted my head to lean closer. None of us noticed that on the neighboring rooftop stood a solitary figure. The late autumn wind howled fiercely, and the person seemed as if they might ride the wind away. In the end, they simply lowered their head and watched everything beneath the pear tree. Just half a month later, while I was at home tutoring my 2 children, someone suddenly stumbled into the courtyard in a panic. "Madam, something terrible has happened." A drop of ink fell on my sleeve. I quickly stood up and called for someone to come in. "What's the matter? Why the panic?" It was Yu Shu, Xianji's attendant. His face was filled with anxiety, and tears were streaming down his cheeks. "It's the young master. He was taken away by officials from the Dali temple at the government office." My whole body trembled, and I steadied myself by holding onto the doorframe, forcing myself to stay calm. I settled the child and hurriedly rode out on horseback with my companions. We rushed all the way to the censorate, only to find the main gate tightly shut, without even a single guard in sight. I couldn't afford to hesitate and immediately began knocking on the door, while sending Kui Yang to ask my mother to come and watch over the child. I also instructed Yu Shu to visit Shu Chochi's subordinates. At the very least, I need to know why he suddenly got into trouble. I waited at the door, my heart burning with anxiety. The sky gradually darkened, clouds gathered, and suddenly, heavy rain began to fall. I gazed into the endless curtain of rain, my eyes slowly becoming drenched. Autumn was coming to an end, and it was raining again. I wonder if Xie Xianji is cold in prison. The door still wouldn't open. Yet, the sound of bells rang out. I leaned forward to look, thinking it was Yu Shu returning. I saw an exquisitely decorated white carriage with gold trim slowly approaching. The blue umbrella lifted the carriage curtain. Then, a figure in a crimson official robe opened the umbrella, stepped out of the carriage, and walked step by step toward me. I looked up at him in a daze. Lord Shu, he lowered his gaze. It's me. I breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly feeling hopeful. Can you help me? I want to see my husband. Instead of answering, he began talking about something else. The officials from the Dali Temple and the Imperial Guards should have already arrived outside the regent's residence by now. The Emperor's realm cannot tolerate anyone attempting to divide and rule. I was about to ask why he suddenly brought this up. He changed the subject and said calmly, Lord Xie has been closely associated with the regent's residence and is suspected of treason. Arresting only him is already an act of imperial grace. I exclaimed in disbelief, how is that possible? My husband would never do such a thing. He wasn't offended and smiled faintly. It's been years since we last met. Have you forgotten that I'm someone who can't lie? I tried hard to calm my emotions, then suddenly remembered something. I asked directly, why have you come at this time? The autumn rain rustled softly. He took off his cloak, and the calm on his face gradually cracked, revealing the familiar, unrestrained charm beneath his composed exterior. To see your sincerity. I didn't understand what he meant and pressed for more details. What sincerity? He moved closer and closer. In the end, the cloak fell upon my shoulders. A sigh reached the ears. Yi Jinhe, what is your heart made of? What is my heart made of? Nothing more than flesh and blood. It itches, it hurts, it gets wounded. But it also heals. It took so much effort to finally recover. Yet he accuses me. You married Xie Xianji. What am I supposed to do? I had prepared a full mansion's worth of betrothal gifts, but after returning just 2 days late, all I saw was your house decorated with lanterns and banners, celebrating a joyous occasion. I was born a beggar, with unknown parents. Since childhood, I received little upbringing, and when I was starving, I even fought with animals for food, but I had never been so frantic before. I lost one shoe while running, only to see the boat sailing away into the distance. He gave a self-mocking smile, not even leaving me a single word. I just think he's being unreasonable. Just tell me directly, did you have a hand in what happened to my husband? He couldn't help but show some sadness on his face. In the end, he replied, if you think I did, then I did. I could no longer hold back and raised my hand to slap him. The young Prime Minister had a trickle of blood at the corner of his lips. He slowly wiped it away, the red mark making his face appear even paler. I continued, you're not the kind of person who demands repayment for a favor, but you always keep your word, Shu Chochi. You promised to protect my family for a lifetime. He laughed. Xie Xianji doesn't have the surname Yi. I clenched my fists, tears suddenly welling up in my eyes. Why won't you just let me go? He didn't hear clearly. What? I recall the past. Perhaps, Shu Chochi never truly treated me well. Just then, Yu Shu and Kui Yang arrived in a carriage. I casually untied my cloak, threw it in front of that person, and turned to get into the carriage. The person who was already leaning towards me let the umbrella completely droop down. After a long while, he bent down to pick up the cloak. It was only then that I vaguely remembered I had given it to him once. Doesn't matter anymore. I asked in a low voice, Yu Shu, what have you found out? Shu Chochi didn't lie to me. Xie Xianji was indeed arrested on this charge. Moreover, His Majesty has issued an order forbidding anyone from visiting. The sky in the capital has changed. The regent's mansion collapsed abruptly, dragging many people down with it. I suddenly thought of someone and ordered, "Go to Pinkang Lane. I bet Shu Chochi won't let Song Miao fall into dire straits as well." Sure enough, after a night of waiting, the door to the residence Song Miao had bought before her marriage opened. I immediately stepped forward and requested to visit. The maid was taken aback and reluctantly said, "Madam Censor, the person my lady least wants to see is you. Please go back." I couldn't care less about being offensive and shouted inside, "Your Highness, I truly have something I need your help with." The door ultimately remained closed, only a cold snort was heard, along with a sarcastic remark, "If you know to come to me, why not go find Shu Chochi?" I returned home, utterly dejected. My clothes were soaked through as I stared blankly at the calligraphy that Xie Xianji had guided my hand to write on the desk the night before. At this time of day, he would usually be by my side, lost in thought. I slumped over the desk and fell into a deep sleep. For 3 days straight, there was no news of Xie Xianji, yet rumors swirled through the streets and alleys. Every day when Suayan tells me the news she has gathered, I can't help but feel terrified. Words like rebellion and beheading fill me with immense fear. On the 4th morning after a sleepless night, I asked Suayan, "How do you think one should repay a life-saving favor?" Without hesitation, she replied, "If one has wealth and power, they should offer a lifetime of security and a promising future. If you're injured, you have to be healed first." I whispered, "Then I should have repaid it all. I am grateful to Shu Chochi for saving me." So later, I repaid him and the people he cared about 1,000-fold, but the reactions of the two of them chilled my heart. A life-saving favor is greater than heaven, yet we clearly agreed to owe nothing to each other. Now, are they trying to buy out my entire life? If that's the case, I'd rather have died on that rainy night. After a long silence, I stood up alone and walked step by step to the next street, returning to the Yi residence. I stood in the familiar courtyard for only a moment before someone climbed over the wall from next door. He stared at me without blinking, his voice hoarse. "Have you made up your mind?" I nodded, his pale face flushed, his fingers trembling as he once again pulled the white jade hairpin from his sleeve. "This was meant for you long ago, you don't know, but I personally sought out the jade material and polished it bit by bit. During the day, I was too busy, so I worked by lamplight at night. I've planted many pear trees in the neighboring courtyard, just like your own. I've also arranged tutors and courtyards for both children, and I will treat them as my own. And, we could even keep a cat." My expression remained completely unmoved, his voice gradually faded, but his hand stubbornly reached out, placing the jade hairpin into my hair. "Have I ever wronged you in any way?" I asked numbly. He said no. "You have been kind to both me and Song Miao," I continued asking. "That year, you clearly weren't the type to meddle in others' affairs, so why did you choose to save me?" He closed his eyes and admitted honestly, "Seeing you dressed in fine clothes, I thought you could give Song Miao a full meal. It was simple and unadorned. What followed then became much easier." I said, word by word, "I will go before the emperor to accuse you of bending the law for personal gain, using factional struggles to eliminate dissidents, and committing the grave crime of deceiving the sovereign. Even if I have to roll over nails 10 times, I will go before the emperor to accuse you. If I die and fail to bring the case to justice, then I will consider it as dying for love of my husband. As long as I have a single breath left, I will stand against you." His eyes widened, and in those eyes, I saw my own reflection. "You and I, it's a fight to the death." He staggered, his hand dropping limply. I pulled out the hairpin and threw it to the ground. The jade hairpin shattered instantly. I said viciously, "You and Song Miao, you two are a perfect match made in heaven, and you shouldn't bring harm to anyone else." After saying that, I turned and walked away. He seemed unable to hold back any longer, losing control as he shouted, "Yi Jinhe, do you know that I have feelings for you? No matter how foolish I am, I wouldn't think that way. I only know that if you truly care for someone, you wouldn't treat them like this." He stepped forward and grabbed me, repeating, "You don't understand, Yi Jinhe, you don't understand anything. Song Miao's parents died because of me." I froze in shock, ceasing my struggle. 16-year-old Shu Chochi was diligently studying for the imperial examinations. However, nature showed no mercy. According to the original plan, he should have been enjoying a spring outing in the suburbs. But without telling the Song family parents, he took Song Miao to the academy to study during the 10-day break. He never expected that the Song family parents could have escaped before the flood arrived, but it was to find him that she was swept away in the flood that engulfed the suburbs. Song Miao hated him. With every glance, her hatred grew stronger. She believed that it was all because Shu Chochi had lied and refused to tell the truth that her parents had died over the years. She had no choice but to rely on him for survival, yet she had never been able to bear seeing him live well. Whenever Shu Chochi strayed from the path of lifelong guilt toward her, she would find a way to pull him back. Originally, Shu Chochi had planned to pass the imperial examinations, request an official post in the south, and take her back home, but she met the man she loved and changed her mind. Shu Chochi fought, struggled, and did everything she could to climb higher. Just like when he brought her into Chang'an like a beggar, it wasn't dignified, but he never complained in front of her. He had noticed Ningchuan's obsession with power right after Song Miao got married. He knew the regent would not come to a good end, so he worked even harder to climb higher. He wanted to atone for the sins he might have committed. He had to save Song Miao's life. I remember my mother's meaningful words. He carries too much burden. You won't see any results. I see. Shu Chochi's gaze was dazed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Jinhe, how dare I say that I have feelings for you? I come from a humble background and have been engaged before. Even after entering officialdom, I only did dirty work, so I could keep climbing higher. But you, and your family, are all upright and kind-hearted. I am someone burdened with guilt. I always knew I wasn't good enough, so I worked desperately, not daring to spend any of my salary, saving it all just to accumulate a decent betrothal gift. I originally thought that once Song Miao got married, she wouldn't be so harsh anymore, but she still believes I'm not worthy of any good girl, let alone you, so she repeatedly called me away. His voice grew even more hoarse. My life has been uneventful, with nothing worth mentioning. There is only Song Miao, the one thing we have in common. As long as you're willing to talk to me, I'll be happy to talk about anything. He stared at me blankly and whispered, "You hate me, don't you?" I nodded and asked him, "You knew I had feelings for you back then, didn't you?" He hesitated and said, "Yes." I chuckled. "That's why you're so confident, letting me bear the world's prejudice and dragging it out until I'm 20 without getting married. You were certain I would wait for you. But Shu Chochi, no matter how much you feel you owe Song Miao, that's only you, and not me, apart from the life-saving grace. I owe her nothing. Moreover, I am not the kind of woman who would die just because I was defiled. If you want to atone, then go atone. Why drag me into it? If I can't see the care, then it doesn't matter. Shu Chochi, you've met Xie Xianji. The kind of gentleman I like now is exactly like him." I stopped arguing and turned to leave. He said in a deep tone, "What if I insist on his death?" I replied coldly, "Then I will surely make you pay with your life." The cold wind was biting, and I wrapped my cloak tighter. I no longer looked at that person. I made my way home. Cuiyan came forward to greet me. "Madam, while you were away earlier, the princess consort of the regent sent a message saying she is willing to help persuade Lord Shu." The little girl caught a glimpse of the inside story from back then and felt a bit uneasy. I reassured her, "You've been tired these past couple of days. Go and rest for a while. As for the princess consort, just reply that it's not necessary." Shu Chochi wouldn't listen either. He, as a person, and his love are both things I cannot bear, whether it was love or not. He truly never let me have a single good day. 72 steel needles, and I can just leave, just like a few years ago. When we were riding horses and enjoying the spring scenery in Jiangnan, the horse suddenly went out of control. Xie Xianji did not hesitate for a moment, leaping from the other horse and landing precariously behind me. Just as we had worked together to subdue the mad horse, we are a couple who share both joys and sorrows. I changed into my court attire, took the horse, and went out alone. I galloped all the way to the palace gate. After running through 3 streets, many things I had seen during my maiden days had changed. The Meridian Gate was just ahead, and I tightened the reins. At the end of the road, however, a carriage was parked. I was forced to stop. The carriage curtain lifted, revealing a deathly pale face, thin, delicate, with lifeless eyes. "Don't go," he whispered. "Xiaxianji will be perfectly fine." We stared at each other for a long moment. He said in a daze, "I actually thought you might treat someone you love poorly. You were very good to me back then." I didn't respond to his words, but said seriously, "Lord Shu, we are even now, all previous agreements are cancelled." He nodded. The outcome would have been the same either way. I suddenly felt a bit sad. I came today with a resolve to die, but deep down, I had some guesses. Shu Chochi would come. He is a man who has spent half his life atoning for his sins. He would not take things to the extreme. I nodded to him in farewell. Before leaving, I suddenly asked, "Most of the jewelry and precious items from the past few years were sent by you to Jiangnan?" His lifeless eyes brightened slightly. "Yes, no wonder. Many of the fine items were clearly imperial gifts. My brother is just a minor official. Where would he have the connections?" At that moment, I knew that in this lifetime, I would probably never be able to marry you. A cold wind blew past, and his voice drifted faintly. "Fortunately, those betrothal gifts were ultimately given to you." I didn't say anything more. 3 days later, everyone in the regent's mansion, except for Song Miao, was taken to the execution ground, yet Xie Xianji emerged completely unscathed. He was extremely anxious and held me tightly in his arms. The emperor ordered me to interrogate the officials involved in the case. It happened so suddenly that I wasn't allowed to inform my family, to prevent other officials' families from speculating or leaking information. "Jinhe, I'm sorry." I punched him twice and burst into tears. After days of hard work and worry, I had lost a lot of weight. He reached out and wrapped his arms around me, his eyes also reddening. "Making you worry for me. I deserve 1,000 deaths." I covered his mouth. I cursed Shu Chochi a few times in my heart for deceiving me, wishing he would have his salary docked for 3 years. Unexpectedly, he wasn't docked his salary, but his situation was even worse. Everyone knew he was the sharpest blade in the emperor's hand, with no background and boundless ambition. He was perfect for handling all the dirty work others disdained. Now, the greatest force restraining the young emperor had been completely dismantled. This blade is not only useless now but has become a thorn in the young emperor's side, constantly reminding him of the disgraceful means he employed to bring down that prince of a different surname. He intended to exile Shu Chochi to the harsh and desolate northwest. The charges listed were nothing more than the same accusations of involvement in factional strife. Having served as an official for many years, he had left behind so much evidence of his misdeeds in his climb up the ranks that there was no need to search for it. Before leaving, Xie Xianji said, "While I was in prison, he sent me several letters. Most of the people in the Dali temple are his former subordinates, and they treated me very well. I didn't want to upset him, so I didn't mention that Shu Chochi had harassed me. I simply said, 'He gave me some things before, please help me return them to him.' I was gone for half the afternoon." Xie Xianji returned feeling lost. The former regent's consort chased after the carriage, saying she forgave him, but was quickly driven back to the city. "Were they always at odds?" I didn't have time to answer. He added, "It seems he has gone mad as well. Half an hour ago, outside the city gate." Shu Chochi gazed in the direction of the crowd, his eyes wandering as if looking at someone far away. He took the familiar treasure he had caressed countless times and whispered softly, "I won't go, this time, I'm not going anymore." The fog of memory lifted, but there was no courtyard, no flower tea, no pear tree, and no 20-year-old Yi Jinhe. The sky was dark, the earth was white with snow. It had already begun to fall. He snapped back to reality, finding only the vast, snow-covered ground and the towering dark green city walls before him, and the only person who came to see him off. He looked and looked, as if trying to find some familiar trace on him. Finally, he said to Xie Xianji, "That tree has been sick before, so we can't let it die again." He handed over a handkerchief, inside of which was a broken jade hairpin. "It has been carefully repaired with gold thread." Xie Xianji handed it to me. After hearing these words, I lowered my head and was lost in thought for a moment. Only then did I lift my head again. "Husband, please put it in the storeroom for me." the jealousy in his eyes faded, and he snorted, "You know what's good for you." His rare moment of awkwardness made me smile knowingly. Outside the window, the snow was falling heavier and heavier, yet it was utterly silent. Everything from my youth has ultimately faded away. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After being captured by the bandits, I became what everyone called a fallen woman. Pei Xian said nothing, simply followed my father in breaking off the engagement and brought me a white silk cord. On the night I intended to end my life, the young general secretly slipped into my courtyard and wiped the tears from my face. "Wanna, if he won't marry you, I will. I've admired you for a long time. Will you marry me?" In the second year of marriage, I stood outside the study and heard Pei Xian mocking He Qian. "She's been thoroughly used, and you still married her. Aren't you disgusted?" He Qian raised an eyebrow and said leisurely, "I warned them back then not to dirty you Qingwan, or I wouldn't even be able to stomach her. You better keep her in check. Don't let any trouble arise before Yu Mo and I get married. Don't worry. Once you and Yu Mo are married, I will send her to the frontier. Tonight, I came to tell He Qian that I am already carrying his child, but now, it's no longer necessary." I felt as if I had just woken from a deep dream, my entire body turning cold. Back then, He Qian was so eager to kill those bandits because he was afraid of leaving behind evidence. 2 lines of tears fell from my eyes, my heart already as cold as ashes. I returned to my room and called for my personal maid, Xiao Kui. "How much of my dowry is left?" Xiao Tsue hesitated a bit. "Miss, your dowry was all for show back then. There wasn't much to begin with, and now there's hardly anything left. That means there's no money. If I go back to my parents' home, my father won't tolerate me. Staying here just makes me sick. If I want to leave this place, I must have silver with me." When He Qian returned to the room, I deliberately prepared a hangover soup and waited for him. He was heavily intoxicated, only kissing me repeatedly while murmuring words of pity. "Wanna, your hands are meant for painting. How could you cook for me?" The strong smell of alcohol irritated my nostrils, and I nearly vomited. Seeing him happy, I said, "Husband, it's time for me to learn how to manage the household." He sobered up a bit, his eyes growing more alert. "I'm afraid you'll tire yourself out." "Oh, then I'll be bored. I heard Yu Mo is getting married, so I might as well go back and help her prepare the dowry." Tomorrow I'll have the accountant come see you." I smiled slightly. Indeed, he panicked as soon as Yu Mo was mentioned. He Qian had given me quite a few pieces of jewelry, and I had Xiao Kui take them all to the pawn shop. The accountant brought the land deeds and property deeds for me to review. I did a quick calculation on the abacus and realized they could be exchanged for a considerable amount of money. Before He Qian sends me away, I'll take as much as I can. One day, Yu Mo came to my residence without any reason. She didn't look for me but went straight into the bedroom I share with He Qian. When I pushed the door open, she was loudly insisting on helping He Qian change his clothes. He Qian naturally did not refuse either. Yu Mo's smile froze, and the clothes in her hand fell to the ground with a soft thud. "Sister, don't misunderstand. I saw that Qian was injured, so I helped him change his clothes." I walked over with a smile and put the clothes that had fallen on the ground back on He Qian. "It's not your fault. It's the fault of the servants in my household who have all died out, daring to let you dress your own brother-in-law." He Qian grabbed my wrist, somewhat displeased. "You two sisters haven't seen each other for a long time. It's better to be amicable." "Yes, Qian." I emphasized the last 2 words. Yu Mo explained on his behalf. "It's a childhood nickname. I forgot to change it. Speaking of which, I am about to get married too. I shouldn't be so willful." I could tell she was very eager for me to ask about her marriage. I said indifferently, "Oh, don't you want to know who my husband is?" "Sister, it's someone you know too." "Pei Xian, the young Marquis of Pei." "Then congratulations to you." Yu Mo frowned, quite disappointed with my reaction. She handed me an invitation. "Both Qian and your sister are invited to attend the ceremony." I casually tossed the invitation aside and said, "Got it." After Yu Mo left, He Qian was a bit angry. "You're usually so tolerant of others. Why can't you accept your own sister? Xian is about to marry her. I just hope she can be more steady." Xian, I said with a smile. Xian and I grew up together since childhood. It's hard to change how I address him for now. Can you Mo say this? But I cannot. Probably not wanting me to cause trouble, Chen held me in his arms to comfort me. I know Pei Xian hurt you, but I will definitely treat you well from now on. He paused for a moment and spoke his mind. You shouldn't go to Pei Xian and Yu Mo's wedding. I nodded. If we're not going, then we're not going. I'll listen to you, my husband. This just makes it more convenient for me to leave the city. Seeing how obedient I was, Chen was very pleased. Wanna. I truly wish to spend my whole life with you like this. I forced a smile. Yes, I had originally planned to spend my whole life with you like this. I hid the silver notes I got from pawning the jewelry under the floor tiles. Just as I finished hiding them, Pei Xian's scolding voice came through. This is the first time I've met Pei Xian since we got married. He put on airs and asked me, Yu Qingwan, what exactly did you say to Moa? She's lost her appetite and is even speaking up for you in front of me. I sat down, leisurely took a sip of tea, and simply ignored him as if a turtle were squawking. Yu Qingwan, the only reason you dislike Moa is because she's going to marry me, isn't it? I pretended to be naive and shook my head. What are you talking about, young Marquis? That day, I saw my sister helping my husband change his clothes. I only interrupted them, but I didn't expect my sister to get angry. Pei Xian grabbed my wrist and pulled me up, angrily saying, You said she helped he can change his clothes. My stomach churned, and I couldn't help but retch twice. Are you pregnant? No, I ate something bad. Just as the situation was becoming awkward, Chen pushed the door open and entered. He asked with a stern face, What are you doing? Pei Xian released me, and there was a strong tension between him and Chen. I tactfully stepped out. Actually, I was eavesdropping outside the door. Chen angrily said, Moa is in a state of grief right now. Instead of being with her, why are you bothering my wife? Since Moa has chosen me, then you should stay away from her. I cover my mouth and laugh. How delightful. Pei Xian asked again, When are you going to send Yu Qingwan away? Chen's eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation. What, are you reluctant to part with her? Not at all. Pei Xian, I must remind you, she looks like she might be pregnant. What nonsense are you talking? I put medicine in her food every day. She could never get pregnant in this lifetime. I see you've taken a liking to her. Zun's expression froze, and he said, I will send her away immediately after Moa's wedding. I sneered. No wonder the doctor said my pulse was strange and that I didn't seem capable of getting pregnant. It turns out Zun had been scheming against me. I went to the pharmacy alone to find a doctor, since I'm leaving. I should leave a gift for Chen. I tearfully complained to the doctor. My husband is so vigorous every night. Is there any medicine that can help control it? The doctor stared at me in stunned disbelief. I pulled a banknote out of my sleeve. Please, doctor, prescribe the medicine for me. The doctor quickly prepared the medicine for me and instructed, Take 1 dose a day. Do not exceed the amount. What happens if I take too much? Will I die? No, but... I understood and gave the doctor another silver note. I'm quite shy, so I hope the doctor can keep my secret. If anyone asks, just say you've never seen me. I returned to the mansion and hurried straight to the kitchen. I brewed 3 doses of medicine together, resulting in a bowl of pitch-black liquid. I leaned in to smell it. The sun was about to set, and today's medicine should be taken today. I brought the medicine to Chen. To be honest, I wasn't lying. Chen is so vigorous and energetic that sometimes I really can't handle it, and I've even advised him to find a concubine. As a result, he got angry and did it fiercely and ruthlessly. Every time I passed out, Chen felt immensely proud. Let's see how you can still laugh in the future. Chen glanced at the medicine and said disdainfully, What is this? My husband has many rashes on his face, which look quite unsightly. This medicine is for dispelling dampness. Thinking about having to attend Yu Mo's wedding, Chen gritted his teeth and drank the medicine all in one go. He frowned bitterly from the taste. I stuffed a piece of candied fruit into his mouth and said happily, Well done, my husband. The doctor said this medicine must be taken every day. Chen held my waist and said softly, Wanna, you've been worrying. It's so good to have you. Well, you'll understand the benefits later. Chen invited Pei Xian for a drink, and Yu Mo tagged along. She wasn't in high spirits, so Pei Xian began to comfort her. Pei Xian, Moa, don't take Yu Qingwan's words to heart. Our Moa is 1,000 times better than her. She's just jealous of you. He Qian remained silent, seeing that Yu Mo couldn't be comforted. Pei Xian grew anxious. Moa, what will it take for you to be happy? Yu Mo looked at He Qian. Ah Qian, why aren't you saying anything? You were there that day too. You saw how my sister humiliated me. He Qian finally reacted. Then what do you want to do? Yu Mo took a porcelain bottle from her sleeve and handed it to him. This is bone cleansing powder. Drinking it will cause the skin to fester and bring unbearable pain. Pei Xian laughed. What a wonderful thing. If Yu Qingwan were to attend her wedding with a ruined face, wouldn't she become a complete laughingstock? This is a great idea. Our Moa is truly brilliant. He Zun was somewhat displeased. Didn't I say she's not allowed to go? I'm afraid she'll cause trouble, Yu Mo said with a grin. She must go. I want to see her face covered in sores and utterly humiliated. It will also give you a good reason to divorce her. You're not having second thoughts, are you, a Zun? Pei Xian also changed his expression. What? Have you developed feelings for her after sleeping together? He Qian drank a large cup of wine and denied. No, give me the thing. That night, He Qian brought a pot of wine. Wanna, the night is cold. I warmed some wine for you to drink. The wine pot gleamed with a cold light. He Qian poured the wine and brought it to me. Wanna, after all, Yu Mo is your sister. You should go to her wedding. I smiled and took the wine glass, drinking it all in one go. A few days later, my skin began to ache as if bitten by insects. I was writhing in pain in He Qian's arms. He held me tightly, not allowing me to scratch my face. Wanna, hold on a little longer, just a little longer and it will be over. My face had already festered, and He Qian turned his head away, unwilling to look at me. You must have eaten something wrong yourself. Don't worry, I'll find a doctor for you first thing tomorrow morning, in a place where he couldn't see me. I secretly curled a smile. All the doctors were at a loss. I shed tears in front of He Qian. Husband, now that I'm like this, will you look down on me? He Qian did not answer. He had someone bring me a veil. Don't worry, I won't look down on you. But he wouldn't even touch me anymore. The day before Yu Mo got married, I sold off all of He Qian's private assets. Only the house we currently live in was left. The money was a thick bundle, too heavy for bricks to hold down. So I dug up a few more bricks and hid the money securely. Early the next morning, the Pei family sent someone to deliver a message, saying that Yu Mo was already eager to see us. Speaking of which, she and I have some old grievances. Her stepmother was so jealous that she actually gave my mother an abortifacient. My mother's second child was stillborn. She couldn't bear the blow and died of depression. On the day my mother died, my father was not in the mansion. I called a few people and dragged my stepmother into the depths of the courtyard to beat her to death. Yu Mo hid in the corner, staring at me with venomous eyes. I can never forget that expression. He Qian took me to the Pei residence. Yu Mo, dressed in a red gown, laughed arrogantly and unrestrainedly. Sister, why are you wearing a veil? Could it be that you're too ashamed to show your face? Everyone laughed and said, we've heard that the Yu family's eldest daughter is quite promiscuous. Could it be that she's too ashamed to show her face? Perhaps she's afraid of being recognized by one of her lovers. Ha ha ha, she has completely disgraced General his reputation. Yu Mo pretended to be angry and said, don't speak of my sister like that. When she was kidnapped by bandits, no one knew what really happened. How can you slander her like this? I said, I've recently caught a slight cold and am afraid of passing it on to my sister. Yu Mo waved her hand at the two servants. Go. Remove my sister's veil and let everyone see her face. The two slowly approached me. He Qian nudged my arm but did not say a word. I raised my hand to stop them. No need, I'll do it myself. The moment the veil was lifted, Yu Mo's eyes widened in astonishment. My skin was as fair as snow, smooth and delicate. For this moment, I had specifically hired the best makeup artist to prepare me. No one ever mentioned that the eldest Miss Yu was so beautiful. This second young lady is ultimately a bit too petty. If I had known the eldest young lady was as beautiful as a fairy, I should have mustered the courage to propose back then. Regardless of whether she was pure or not, just enjoy it first. He Zun glared at them angrily, frightening them into silence. I walked towards the stunned Yumo. Sister, your mother passed away early. Shall I help you put in the hairpin? Yumo stammered a bit. No, no need. What, are you afraid? Or are you disappointed to see my face? What is there to be afraid of? Sister, come in with me. I turned around and smiled at He-Chen. Husband, I'll be back soon. I entered the room. Yumo dismissed the servants and dropped all pretense. Why hasn't your face rotted away? I replied coldly. What, are you disappointed? You Qingwan, you're nothing but a fallen flower and a withered willow. What airs are you putting on in front of me? Do you know what Pei Xian said about you? Cold and boring, he doesn't like you at all. And a Chen, that day he came to me drunk, telling me over and over that the one he loves is me. He only married you because he had no choice. To secure my marriage into the Marquis household, Yumo grew more and more hysterical as she spoke. Do you think who was the one who found those bandits, while you were being violated by them? Pei Xian and He-Chen were telling me all about it as if it were a joke. And the medicine that ruined your face was given to you by He-Chen. I knew he couldn't bear to part with it. He's just as despicable as you are. Aren't you the legitimate daughter? Aren't you so high and mighty? I'm going to crush you into the mud, Yumo roared with a ferocious expression. She looked at me with a smug expression. But unfortunately, there wasn't a trace of pain on my face. Come to think of it, I still haven't given Pei Xian his gift. I counted on my fingers and said, the red willow and purple swallow from Zui Fengyu, Yinga from Chunlu, Oh, and Chu Chu from Yihong Court. These are all women Pei Xian has been with. There are countless women who have had abortions because of him, oh. And there's also a Zhen from Buju Alley, who has already given birth to a 3-year-old boy. Yumo was as if struck by lightning. She sneered coldly and retorted, impossible. Pei Xian loves me. You must be here to sow discord. Impossible. Pei Xian's future days are going to be quite lively. I took a bottle out of my sleeve. This is the bone cleansing powder. Sister, why don't you try it too? No, help. I pinched her chin and poured all the medicine down her throat. As I poured, I said, you only know that my mother was skilled in medicine, but you don't know she left me a detox pill that can cure all poisons. Yumo, now you can taste the pain of having your heart and liver torn out. Oh, and by the way, the effects of this bottle are much faster than yours. When I came out, He-Chen's eyes held a hint of guilt as he looked at me. I caressed his face and said softly, husband, what's wrong with you? Seeing that I didn't suspect him, he was a bit surprised. Wanna, your face. Xiao Kui invited a famous doctor for me, and he cured me yesterday. His eyes shifted uneasily as he said guiltily, that's good then, my lord, I am feeling unwell and will return to the residence first. The marriage of Marquis Pei is a joyous occasion of great significance. All the citizens in the city want to join in the celebration. This is the perfect time to leave the city. Before leaving, He-Chen kissed my forehead and said affectionately, wait for me to come back, I'll bring you your favorite lotus flower cake. I remained silent, simply got into the carriage and disappeared from his sight. I moved the bricks aside to get the money, and Xiao Kui had already prepared the carriage. As we left the city, my carriage passed by He-Chen. He came out of Zhenbao Zhai, looking down with a smile at the lotus flower cake in his hand. I just felt sick and urged the coachman to go faster. Once we were out of the city, the coachman asked me blankly, Madam, you haven't said where we're going yet. I thought for a moment and said, let's go to Lingnan, that's where my mother used to live. Xiaotsue counted the silver notes one by one and exclaimed, Miss, we've struck it rich. I pinched her round cheek and laughed, you eat so much, if I don't save up enough money, how could I possibly afford to keep you? Although the carriage was bumpy, the closer we got to Lingnan, the more peaceful and eager my heart became. 5 years later, the barbarians started a war, and chaos broke out at the Lingnan border. I was sitting in the pharmacy, so busy that my feet barely touched the ground. Another batch of wounded soldiers had been sent from the battlefield. The lead assistant was on the verge of tears. Doctor Yu, I beg you, you must save them. Back when I first arrived in Lingnan, I heard that the best medical clinic here was Shangchuan Hall, so I brought Xiaotsue to get the prescription for an abortion. The head of the clinic was a woman over 50, my mother's cousin. Schweminit, seeing that I could recognize various herbs, she insisted that I stay and study medicine. Aunt Xue looked at me with regret. Lingnan is full of poisonous insects and miasma. Back then, your mother studied medicine because she wanted to stay and benefit the local people. What a pity. She taught me the methods of detoxification and the art of studying poisons. After that, she passed away. I inherited the Shangchuan Hall and became famous throughout Lingnan for my detoxification skills. The barbarians are skilled in using poisons, but no one in our army is adept at detoxification, so batches of wounded soldiers from the southern border were constantly being sent to me. The dead piled up into mountains, the assistant said. The poison used by those barbarians this time is extremely vicious. Many didn't even make it to our Shangchuan Hall before they died. I made up my mind and said to him, I'm going to the front lines. Xiaotsue was terrified. Miss, you absolutely cannot go. The battlefield is a place that devours people. How can you go there? The military doctors are not skilled in detoxification methods. So many people die before they can even be sent to Shangchuan Hall. If I go, perhaps I can break the barbarians' poison. Xiaotsue, during the days I am away, I entrust Shangchuan Hall to you. The number of wounded soldiers in the army has already reached hundreds and thousands. Every doctor put on a veil to prevent the spread of the disease. It took me several days to develop the antidote, which I promptly delivered to each doctor. Only when I saw that those who had taken the medicine had significantly improved did my anxious heart finally settle. While treating a young soldier one day, the sound of hoofbeats came from outside. Report, General, he has arrived. My body jolted violently, as if all the blood in my veins had frozen. A cold voice rang out. This physician, you are blocking my path. General, I didn't need to look up, that voice was all too familiar. Fortunately, the veil concealed me. So He Qian didn't recognize me. I quietly stepped aside. The current situation is critical, as the barbarians are highly likely to provoke war again. Thus, the court ordered He Qian to lead troops in support. Life is unpredictable. What's even more critical is that He Xian specifically asked to see me by name. The young soldier who came to deliver the message was no more than 15. He smiled and said to me, the general has heard of Dr. Yu's exceptional skills and wishes to personally discuss with you the methods to counter the barbarians' poison. I tentatively asked him, did the general say anything else? He shook his head. No, the general said he only wants to see you. 5 years have passed, and my appearance has changed from before. Besides, I am wearing a veil, so He Qian shouldn't recognize me. I replied to the soldier, I understand, please lead the way. I entered the military tent and found not only He Qian inside, but also the old General Sima Chun. There were also some officers whose names I couldn't recall. I slightly raised my voice. Greetings to all the generals. General Sima introduced me to He Qian. This is Dr. Yu, a renowned expert from Lingnan. He Qian said, Dr. Yu, there's no need to be reserved. You may raise your head and speak. I slowly lifted my head. 5 years had passed. And He Qian no longer had the high spirits of his youth. His face was weathered, a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes, and he quickly asked me, your surname is Yu, but what is your given name? Reporting to the general, Yu Qing. He Qian stared at me, lost in thought. General Sima, noticing the strange atmosphere, spoke up, Physician Yu, we plan to launch a surprise attack on the barbarians, but they are skilled in using poison. Do you have a solution? I replied respectfully, yes. But there are countless types of poisons. Only by coming into contact with them can we determine how to counteract them. Does that mean you have to follow the army to the battlefield? Yes. Everyone fell into deep thought. If something happens to me, I'm afraid our army's situation will become even more difficult. He Qian was the first to speak. Then let's bring Dr. Yu along. She'll follow me, and I promise not a single hair on her head will be harmed. He was just looking at me normally. No different from how he looked at others. The moment our eyes met, he casually looked away as if nothing had happened. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I followed He Qian to launch a surprise attack on the barbarians. He set fire to the barbarians' granary, but things went too smoothly, and I couldn't shake off my unease. As we were retreating, my horse suddenly panicked and bolted wildly. He Qian acted swiftly, holding me as we fell from the horse. He cushioned my fall, and before I could gather my senses, my veil was torn off. He Chen practically spat out the words through gritted teeth. You Ching WN. He dragged me into the woods, my back hit the tree trunk, and my lips grew warm. He Chen pinched my chin, his domineering breath invading my mouth. I bit his tongue hard, he winced in pain but kissed me even deeper, until the blood dripped. He finally let go. I shouted angrily, General have you gone mad? He wiped the blood from his mouth with a grim expression. How long are you going to keep pretending? I recognized you at a glance. I don't know what you're talking about. His fingertips slid to my waist. My wife has a birthmark on her waist. If you don't admit it, I'll strip you to see if it's there. Snap. He Chen's face was slapped to the side by me. I said coldly, you've already been poisoned by me. If you dare act recklessly again, we'll have no choice but to perish together. A cold light flashed in his eyes. You Qingwan, unless you poison me to death, I will definitely take you back. I sneered. What's with the act of affection? You were the one who hired bandits to ruin my innocence, and you were the one who gave me the bone-cleansing powder. What are you trying to do now? I'm sorry. What happened before wasn't intentional. Pei Xian and Yu Mo deceived me. I truly want a future with you. You've been putting medicine in my food every day. Making me unable to have children. Is that also because you want a future with me? He Chen's pupils contracted sharply. You knew all along, however. I did get pregnant, but on the first day I arrived in Lingnan, I had the child aborted. I pushed He Chen away and mocked him. You're not worthy of me bearing your child. The news of He Chen's poisoning quickly spread throughout the military camp. General Sima personally came to ask me to treat him. I only said, that poison won't kill him. But it will make him suffer a bit. By suffer a bit, I meant excruciating joint pain, vomiting, and diarrhea, making it impossible for him to sleep at night. The barbarians had run out of provisions and had been quiet these days, so there was no need for He Chen to go to war. But He Chen was in so much pain that his subordinates couldn't bear to see it and came to fetch me again. I slowly moved closer, wishing he would suffer a little longer. It had only been a few days. But He Zun had noticeably lost weight. I took out the needles and began the acupuncture treatment. He forced his eyes open and suddenly grabbed my hand. Were you in a lot of pain that time too? He was talking about the bone cleansing powder. Seeing that I remained silent, he added, don't save me. Let me suffer a little more. I rolled my eyes. He Chen, you should go perform in an opera. A tear traced the corner of his eye. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have hurt you. You are so good. Back then, I truly wanted to spend my whole life with you. Shut up. I suddenly exerted force, causing He Xian to cry out in pain. A soldier rushed in from outside and reported urgently, General, young Marquis Pei is here. Pei Xian had escaped from the capital, after Yu Mo was disfigured. Her temperament drastically changed. She took her people and dealt with all of Pei Xian's romantic entanglements. Pei Xian's son, born to his mistress, was only 3 years old. Yu Mo forced a bowl of deadly poison down the child's throat, killing him. The two became the laughingstock of the entire capital. Upon hearing that He Chen had arrived in Lingnan, Pei Xian also requested permission to go there. With a haggard face, he tearfully poured out his misfortunes to He Chen. That despicable Yu Mo, how could I have been so blind back then, abandoning Wanna to marry her? As he spoke, he turned his gaze toward me. I was wearing a veil and kept my head slightly lowered. He laughed out loud. He Xian, is this the substitute you found? She really looks like Wanna. When you're done playing with her, lend her to me for a while too. He Xian's face darkened as he angrily said, she's just an army doctor. If you dare lay a finger on her, I'll have you executed under military law. Pei Xian didn't say a word, but his eyes were fixed intently on me. Speaking of which, Wanna is quite ruthless too. She sold off all your family assets and ran off with the money. If I ever run into her, I'll definitely punish her harshly for you. Pei Xian uttered the word punishment with an extremely suggestive tone. I took a step forward, stumbled, and fell into his embrace. Please don't blame me, young Marquis Pei. I immediately stood up, pretending to be flustered. Pei Xian smiled and looked at He Chen. The substitute you found threw herself into my arms. He Chen said coldly, I'm afraid you don't have the fortune to enjoy it. Pei Xian developed a high fever and was talking nonsense. He blurted out all the schemes he had plotted against me. Now even General Sima looks at He Qian with a hint of disdain. That day, Pei Xian barged into my tent. I didn't have time to put on my veil. He was both shocked and overjoyed. "Wanna, is it really you? You have no idea how much I've missed you," I said. "My lord, you've mistaken me for someone else. Impossible. I want to take you back to the capital. I don't want any other women. Only you. Is that all right?" I held a poisoned needle in my hand. If Pei Xian dared to step forward, I wouldn't hesitate to take his life. Suddenly, an angry male voice rang out. "Pei Xian, you're really looking down on me." He Qian lifted the curtain and stormed in, angrily blocking my way. I began to sow discord. "General He, the Marquis said he wants to take me back to the capital and make me his woman. What do you think about this?" He Qian was furious. "Pei Xian, don't push my limits." Pei Xian was not to be outdone either. "If I hadn't given Wanna to you back then, how could you have married her? Wanna was originally mine." As he spoke, he actually tried to push past He Qian to pull me away. The moment he touched me, Pei Xian's arm was severed, and blood spurted a jong high. He Qian sheathed his sword, a murderous intent rising in his eyes. "I told you, don't touch her." Pei Xian was rolling on the ground in pain, cursing me and He Qian with the most venomous words. Wishing us a terrible death. I kept a straight face, but inside I was applauding with delight. I took a pill from my pouch and stuffed it into Pei Xian's mouth. The pill could stop the bleeding, but the side effect was that it would damage the brain. I had intended to let Pei Xian off, but he foolishly provoked me, so he might as well remain a fool forever. He Qiao and I both claimed publicly that Pei Xian had lost his mind due to a fever, barged into my tent, and severed his own arm. Whenever someone asked me if I could cure Pei Xian, I would simply say, "He was foolish enough to cut off his own arm, there's nothing I can do." That day when I returned to the tent, someone hugged me from behind. Pei Xian greedily sniffed my neck. "Wanna, you smell so good." The needle in my hand went straight into his throat. The needle was coated with a potent poison. Pei Xian was already poisoned by me, and now with this additional toxin, he would die within an hour. Lingnan is full of venomous creatures, and young Master Pei, being delicate and noble, was accidentally bitten and met his end here. It all makes perfect sense. I watched as Pei Xian fell straight to the ground. At that moment, He Qian lifted the curtain. "Wanna, are you okay?" I hid the needle and said, "He's dead, died from a high fever." He Qian looked at Pei Xian on the ground, his eyes filled with ferocity. He drew his sword and thrust it into Pei Xian's chest in one swift motion. "Wanna, this has nothing to do with you. I will handle it for you. I will make sure that everyone who has hurt you dies without a complete corpse." He threw Pei Xian's body into the desolate wilderness. By the time Pei Xian was discovered, his body had been completely devoured by wild wolves. He Xian's words were as follows. Young Marquis Pei was delirious with fever, wandered into the outskirts, encountered wild wolves, and unfortunately lost his life. He Xian said he wanted all those who harmed me to die without a complete corpse. What about himself? The person who came to collect Pei Xian's body was Yu Mo. She had covered her entire face. It was said that after her face was disfigured during her wedding, no one had ever seen her appearance again. While she was collecting Pei Xian's body, her eyes never left He Qian for a moment. I said to He Qian, "General, I've heard that Lady Pei's face was injured. Perhaps I can treat it." Upon hearing my voice, Yu Mo's body trembled. "You are Yu Qingwan, aren't you? You are Yu Qingwan." He Zun stopped her. "This is Dr. Yu Qing from Lingnan, not Yu Qingwan, Zun. I ended up like this because of her. You care about me the most. Kill her and avenge me." "Don't call me that, my wife will be unhappy." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. It's truly a case of belated affection, utterly worthless. I asked He Qian one last time. I said I can cure her. "Do you believe me?" He Qian nodded firmly. "I believe." "Good. Go lift her veil." I looked coldly at Yu Mo. "Mrs. Pei, for the sake of your beauty, bear with it." He Qian walked step by step toward Yu Mo. She clung desperately to the veil, pleading bitterly, "Qian, I beg you, don't force me. Don't you like Moa anymore? Moa likes you. Please don't treat me like this." He Qian hesitated for a moment and glanced back at me. I said, "Take it off." He Qian yanked off Yu Mo's veil. Her face, covered in festering sores, emitted a foul stench and was crawling with maggots. Many soldiers couldn't hold back and vomited. Yumo covered her face and screamed in despair. I clicked my tongue in amazement and shook my head. A rare poison indeed, I cannot cure it. He-Chen covered my eyes with his hand. Dirty, don't look. Yumo was deeply affected and seemed dispirited. I had no intention of getting entangled with Yumo, but upon seeing her, past grievances surged like a rushing river, and the hatred felt endless. That day, when I entered her tent, she was muttering to herself. When she saw me, her face turned pale, and she shrank back. I smiled gently. Lady Pei, I am here to save you from your troubles. I invited He-Chen to my tent for a drink. He was both surprised and delighted, as if he wanted to bare his heart to me. I poured him a glass of wine and watched him drink it. Wanna, have you finally forgiven me? I toyed with the wine glass and said slowly, forgive? When have I ever blamed you, my husband? He-Chen's eyes were somewhat dazed as he reached for my hand. I twirled my fingers in his palm, caressing. Husband, do you want me? Yes, I had spiked the wine with a potent drug, back when I destroyed He-Chen's foundation. He had been suppressing himself all these years. Under the influence of the drug, he could no longer control his desires. He-Chen stood up and held me tightly. I pushed him away. Blow out the candles first. He-Chen eagerly went to blow out the candles. I took the opportunity to step back and pointed toward Yumo outside. The bigger the commotion, the more opportunities there are. Fate is in your own hands. Yumo's face was smeared with my specially made ointment, which masked the foul smell. Leaving only a fragrance, not long after she entered, I heard the sound of the two of them rolling onto the bed. I quietly walked to the side and took out a fire starter. I shouted, fire! A group of rough men came to put out the fire, but they were all stunned by the scene before them. Yumo, who had just lost her husband, was pinned beneath He-Chen. The two of them, ignoring the raging fire, were passionately entangled. He-Chen, who had been holding back for 5 years, was once again experiencing the feeling of being a man and found it hard to stop. It wasn't until General Sima rushed over in a fury that he roared angrily, "You scoundrels, what do you take the military camp for? What are you all standing around for? Put out the fire." A group of people, their faces flushed with embarrassment, hurried to the river to fetch water and extinguish the flames. General Sima was furious and ordered his men to separate He-Chen and Yumo. The two naked individuals were forcibly pulled apart. General Sima slapped He-Chen several times hard, finally waking him up. He-Chen, oh He-Chen, you've completely lost face. He-Chen covered his face, looked at the completely naked Yumo beside him, and then at me. He understood everything. I mouthed to him, so what if I did it? Back then, I was captured by bandits for 3 days and 3 nights, then abandoned at the city gate. They tore my clothes and left bruises all over my body. At that time, I was degraded to the lowest of the low. Everyone gathered around to watch my embarrassment. Indeed, fortunes change over time. The despicable man and woman deserve this. The scandal between Yumo and He-Chen spread throughout the military camp. That day, Yumo clung tightly to He-Chen. "Ah Chen, now everyone knows I'm your woman. If you don't marry me, how am I supposed to live from now on?" I stood by, watching coldly. This was what Yumo wanted. She was willing to ruin her own reputation just to marry He-Chen. She thought only a man could be relied on for a lifetime, and if she lost one man, she had to find another. He-Chen mercilessly kicked her away and threatened her. "I won't marry you. If you dare mess with me again, I'll kill you." Yumo collapsed on the ground. He-Chen had trained in martial arts for years, and that kick likely broke Yumo's bones. He-Chong hurried to my side and asked me sadly, "Wanna, have you calmed down?" "He-Chong, you look like a dog right now. I wronged you first. What do I need to do for you to calm down?" "Oh, then go die. You said that anyone who harms me should die without a complete corpse." He-Chen's expression froze. I knew he couldn't bear to die, but the poison on Yumo's face was contagious. As soon as the war in Lingnan ended, I returned to Shangchuan Hall. Xiaotsue nearly burst into tears when she saw me safe and sound. "Miss, I heard that He-Chen and Pei Shen both went to the front lines. I was so worried about you, afraid they might bully you." I patted her head and smiled faintly, saying, "They can't bully me. I was the one who bullied them." Xiaozue was taken aback for a moment, then quickly understood. So all those rumors spreading in the army were actually your doing? I nodded. I heard that after Pei Xian's death, Yu Fu hooked up with He Qian. The old Marquis Pei was so furious that he sent a letter of divorce directly to Lingnan. You really have some skills, miss. It's not that I have skills. Those who do evil will inevitably bring about their own downfall. Later, while treating a woman, I heard her mention He Qian. General, he swore to guard the frontier for life and never return to the capital. I wonder if it's because of the scandal with the second Miss Yu that he's too ashamed to go back. I smiled and said, perhaps. The woman continued, but I also heard he stayed here for a certain doctor. Dr. You're so good looking, could it be for you? You're joking, madam. Speaking of the Yu family's second young lady, I heard she died of a sudden illness. Oh dear. Everyone knows about her affair with General He. It's just as well she's gone. She spilled all her secrets and got her illness treated. I stood at the door, watching her leave. I looked up to see the bright sunshine and the beautiful spring scenery. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.